From that day on, for a period of time, Ian was in charge of Yunyan's diet. He would research recipes and study food combinations, putting a lot of effort. Yunyan trusted him completely. She ate whatever he said was both nutritious and would help her lose fat. When she stood on the electronic scale, she had indeed lost a fair bit of weight. Yunyan was ecstatic. It was only much later that Yunyan understood. Even if she had feasted on rich food back then, she wouldn't have gained weight, since she had starved herself for several meals before that. Now, thinking back on her past confusion, Yunyan couldn't help but ask Jiang Yinyan, were those meals you made really for weight loss? Jiang Yinyan smiled. What do you think? Little girls are easy to fool. As expected. From the moment they met again until now, Yunyan felt that her relationship with Jiang Yinyan was in a subtle, intense state, a complete break from what it used to be. If she didn't know he was the Ah Yin of the past, Yunyan would have certainly thought he was just someone who looked a lot like him. The Ah Yin of the past was Yunyan's pillar, a protective umbrella that could shield her from the wind and rain, a guarantee that no matter what problem she encountered, no matter how great the risk, it could be solved as long as he was there. She had relied on Ah Yin so much, trusted him so much. After they met again, the only time Jiang Yinyan mentioned the past was with a single miss, and that was on the day they first saw each other again. That day was, indeed, her birthday. It was certainly an unforgettable one. Her brother was taken away, her fiancé was fooling around with a woman in a hotel, and as for her, she was at a dead end, desperately begging her fiancé's uncle. So, hearing Jiang Yinyan mention the past, Yunyan was momentarily dazed and rather surprised, especially when he brought up her childhood fights. After a long silence, Yunyan lowered her eyes and said softly, "It's not that I was a good fighter. Back then, I was just reckless, banking on a Yu family's prestige." Jiang Yinyan looked at her, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Is that so?" "Yes," Yunyan said. "And now you have things to be cautious about." Yunyan said in a low voice, "Of course." In the past, although she wasn't arrogant, she had never experienced the helplessness of the adult world, especially in a society of exchanged interests where few could truly be single-minded. Now that the great ship of the Yu family had sunk, she had witnessed bloody reality and the truest side of human nature. What capital did she have left to be unrestrained? Jiang Yinyan was silent for a long while before suddenly saying, "You can be reckless. You have me." Yinyan froze, looking at him subconsciously. Once, he had single-handedly entered a dangerous situation to save her from peril. The moment she saw him then, it was as if she had seen a god. He held her tightly and said, "Miss, don't be afraid. You have me." A faint, sharp pain tugged at Yunyan's heart, a mix of complex emotions washing over her. She gave a dry smile. "Is that so?" Only after he had said those words did Jiang Yinyan realize what had come out of his mouth, an inexplicable irritation rising in his heart. Seeing her reaction, this irritation only intensified. The warmth in his eyes cooled, and when he spoke again, his tone had become somewhat careless. "You're the woman I'm keeping. Who would dare touch you?" The faint ache in Yunyan's heart suddenly twisted into a sharp pain, as if she had been stabbed. So that was what he meant. She had been overthinking it. Right, that's all he could have meant. She secretly took a deep breath and let it out slowly. When she looked up at Jiang Yinyan again, a smile played on her lips. "Young master," Yin said himself, "you can't go back on your word." She was putting on an act for the occasion. How could Jiang Yinyan not see it? He replied faintly, "I won't. What else would you like to eat?" Yunyan asked softly. Jiang Yinyan sized her up. "I'll eat whatever you feed me." "All right." After the meal, Jiang Yinyan had no intention of letting Yunyan leave. Several times, Yunyan wanted to go, but the words would be interrupted just as they reached her lips. The next time she tried to speak to him, a phone rang. It was Jiang Yinyan's. He took the phone and went into the study, but before he entered, he said to her, "Don't go. Wait for me." The following period was spent in sheer boredom. Jiang Yinyan's phone call was not short. At first, Yunyan sat on the sofa and waited. When she got tired of sitting, she began to wander around, exploring the entire interior, but he still didn't emerge from the study. It didn't take a genius to know it was an important call. During her 2 visits to the hospital, Jiang Yinyan's phone had also rung constantly, but most of the time he would just glance at the caller ID and not answer. With his status today, he certainly had the prerogative to choose. Yunyan walked to the French window and looked out at the lush greenery. Then she took out her phone and sent a message to Xiao Min, mainly asking how she was since she had been hungover. Xiao Min didn't reply immediately, likely because she was busy. Yunyan was long used to this. Xiao Min, immersed in the fashion world for years, was like a soldier on a battlefield the moment she stepped into her agency, busy beyond belief. Yunyan had once visited Xiao Min's workplace. The moment she stepped inside, her head spun. Beautiful women and handsome men, all clad in designer brands, walked with a sense of purpose. Bumping into an acquaintance and exchanging greetings was considered a waste of time. Union admired Xiaomin. That environment was just too competitive. She went to the garden. It was huge, and it was clearly cared for by a professional gardener. The garden was filled with rare flowers and exotic plants, as well as many ancient trees, a number of which she couldn't name, but could tell were very old. She stood under an ancient tree and looked up. The azure sky above was divided into countless blue strips by the dense branches, and the sunlight was filtered into fine sand, soft and peaceful as it fell on her face. Suddenly, Yunyan's gaze shifted. Her eyes unintentionally met the man's upstairs. Yunyan hadn't expected Jiang Yinyan's study to face the garden directly. He stood at the French window, looking down at her, his gaze fixed on her. He watched, unblinking and with great interest, as her figure walked here and there in the garden. For a moment, Yunyan felt awkward and very uncomfortable. She avoided his line of sight and walked deeper into the garden. Upstairs in the study, Jiang Yinyan stood before the French window with one hand in his pocket. He was still on the phone, his brow already showing impatience as he glanced at the clock on the wall, until Yunyan's figure entered his line of sight. Although he didn't return here often, the garden was always maintained. He liked tall plants, so the garden was mostly filled with rare, towering vegetation. As Yunyan moved among these tall plants, she appeared all the more petite. Jiang Yinyan's gaze followed her movements, and for a moment, the irritation from the phone call was dispelled. Seeing her look up, Jiang Yinyan couldn't help but want to smile. From his angle, she looked as if she were about to be swallowed by the vegetation. She really was fatally delicate. When he saw her walk deeper into the garden, he had no reaction at first, but soon the corners of his mouth drooped, and his gaze grew profound. Yunyan mistakenly thought she had walked into the garden of the old Yu family estate, especially when she saw the swing under the jasmine vine. It was identical to the swing in the Yu family garden, a pearly white carriage swing with a vintage design. She would often curl up in it to read or sleep with a plush toy as a pillow. It stemmed from the Cinderella story she had read as a very young child. When the pumpkin turned into a carriage, the pumpkin carriage in her mind was also sparkling and glittering. So, the very small her had taken a paintbrush and drawn a pumpkin carriage for Yui Yuan, insisting that she had to have one. Yui Yuan took one look and thought, how simple is that? He ordered someone to make a pumpkin carriage. Although Yunyan was young at the time, her mind was full of ideas. She made a request. The pumpkin carriage had to be on a swing. A pumpkin carriage like that, swaying back and forth, would be incredibly comfortable. Her wish was easily granted. Yui Yuan had a pumpkin carriage swing built for her, designed entirely according to the imagination in her drawing. He even invited famous masters to decorate the pumpkin carriage. In addition, he had jasmine vines planted, and when the jasmine bloomed, the white blossoms would hang down along the vines, their fragrance sweet and clear. Not only was there a pumpkin swing, but Yui Yuan even hired a renowned designer to create a pair of crystal slippers for her, not just decorative ones, but the kind from the fairy tale that could actually be worn. In her youth, she had once worn those crystal slippers to a banquet. Everyone marveled at her shoes. At that moment, she was a princess in everyone's eyes. Yui Yuan had told her, "You are a real princess. Daddy will make my little princess happy for a lifetime." At the time, Yunyan truly believed she could be a princess for her entire life. Later, when disaster struck the Yu family, they couldn't even keep the old mansion, let alone the things inside it. The contents vanished without a trace. She never saw those crystal slippers again. They probably met the same fate as her father's antiques, or perhaps even worse, since they weren't as valuable as antiques. Yunyan felt a surge of emotion. She slowly walked forward, approaching the pumpkin carriage swing. But a closer look made her freeze. After a long moment, Yunyan came to her senses. She stepped forward and grabbed the pumpkin's window frame. Upon seeing the line of words carved on the sill, her emotions surged. The characters on the sill were youthful, reading, "A pair of red beans and an ornate dice. Does my bone-deep love reach you?" It was her handwriting. Yunyan's hand, gripping the window frame, was trembling slightly. She had thought it was just an identical pumpkin carriage swing, but she never imagined it was her swing. Yunyan's heart pounded wildly. This was no coincidence. Was it Jiang Yinyan? Why would he do this? Looking at the surroundings again, she hadn't noticed at first, but the deeper she walked into the garden, the more familiar it became. The area around the swing, in particular, was practically a replica of the Yu family garden. Although only the part around the swing had been replicated, it was enough to shock Yunyan. Yunyan reached out and touched the pumpkin carriage swing, her fingertips trembling uncontrollably with every caress. It was as if she could see the Yu family again, the prosperous Yu family. It was also as if she could see herself, a child telling her father, "I want a big, big pumpkin carriage swing so I can still sit in it when I grow up." Her father had chuckled and patted her head, saying, All right, I'll have a big pumpkin carriage swing made for you, so our Yin Yin can be a princess for her whole life. Yun Yin could almost see her teenage self, her heart full of secrets, hiding inside the pumpkin carriage, fantasizing that her own prince would eventually find her. She had shyly and cautiously carved that line of words, her mind filled with the image of that graceful young man in white. Yun Yin wanted to laugh, but her eyes reddened. She gently held onto the carriage and sat down. It was clearly her own possession, yet now she sat on it with such caution. The moment the pumpkin carriage began to sway gently, Yun Yin was lost in a trance, as if time had instantly rewound to the past, to the glorious days of the Yu family. As far as she could see were the familiar plants and flowers of the Yu residence. It seemed even the style and orientation of the flower pots on the ground were identical. As she swung, Yun Yin's eyes grew moist, and no matter how she tried, she couldn't hold back the tears. She tried to console herself, saying she wasn't crying, but had just not been on a swing for a long time, and the wind was stinging her eyes. She lowered her head to rest on her arm, letting the pumpkin carriage swing slow down on its own. Abruptly, the swing was forced to a stop. She opened her eyes and first saw a pair of polished men's leather shoes, and above them, a pair of well-tailored suit trousers. Once upon a time, her father had dressed just like this. Yun Yin looked up. The vast expanse of sunlight above was blocked by the man's broad figure. She was shrouded in the shadow he cast, much like her current predicament. From this angle, Jiang Yinyan's eyes were deep and profound, making it impossible to discern his inner emotions. Silence. A terrifying silence. Yun Yin repeatedly warned herself in her heart. This is not the Yu residence, and he is no longer the Yin of the past. Jiang Yinyan held the pumpkin carriage with one hand, looking down at her. After a long while, he finally spoke faintly. What are you crying about? Only then did Yun Yin realize that her face was streaked with tears. She hadn't noticed a moment ago. She raised a hand to wipe away the tears. When she spoke, although her voice was still emotional, she had composed herself considerably. She said, "The wind was too strong when the swing was moving. It got in my eyes." Jiang Yinyan leaned down. "Let me see." Yun Yin didn't dodge or avoid him, simply letting Jiang Yinyan's face press closer until they were inches apart. Jiang Yinyan let out a low chuckle. "Is there any wind?" Yun Yin met his gaze and asked, "Everything here is a recreation of the Yu residence." "What?" Jiang Yinyan walked around to the back of the pumpkin carriage and said, "Lift your feet." Yun Yin knew what he was about to do, so she complied. He gave a gentle push. The swing began to move. He pushed it rhythmically, unhurriedly, without much force. The swing swayed gently, back and forth, leisurely and free. Just like before, Yun Yin would sit in the pumpkin carriage, wave Yin over, and ask him to push the swing for her. And Yin would do as she asked, standing behind the swing, pushing it gently. Yun Yin would think he was pushing too gently and, quite unhappy, would shout at him to push harder. But Yin always maintained the same speed, never increasing the force of his push, and Yun Yin would sit in the swing, pouting and sulking. When Yin saw this, he would laugh and ask her, "Is Miss a pufferfish? You'll explode if you get any angrier." Yun Yin would decide she didn't want him to push anymore and would call for other bodyguards to push her. However, the other bodyguards wouldn't come forward, intimidated by the cold glare from Yin. Yin would say, "The pumpkin carriage is large, so its range of motion is limited. If I force it, the swing will break. Don't you want your pumpkin carriage anymore?" That line always worked. Even though Yin wasn't much older at the time, he had his ways of dealing with Yun Yin. Today, Jiang Yinyan was still pushing in the same way as back then, but the woman in the pumpkin carriage had lost her former enthusiasm. She only wanted to know why Jiang Yinyan would do this. "There's no special reason, really," Jiang Yinyan said as he pushed, his speaking pace as unhurried as his actions. "I needed to build a garden, and the most beautiful garden design I've ever seen was the Yu family's, so I just used it as a reference." "A reference?" Yinyan said. "This isn't a reference. This is a complete replica. And the pumpkin carriage, it's the exact one from the Yu family's home," Jiang Yinyan said flatly. "Only a replica can serve as a reminder. A constant reminder for me not to forget what Yuan did." Yun Yin's body trembled violently. The swing was held tightly by the man behind her. Although Yun Yin was in the pumpkin carriage, at this moment she felt so clearly manipulated, controlled. Then she heard the man behind her slowly say, "I want Yuan to know that his daughter is right here in this pumpkin carriage, controlled by me." Yun Yin's breath caught. She wanted to get off the swing, but the man behind her gave a push along with the momentum. This time the force was considerable, and the swing instantly soared high. Yun Yin instinctively let out a scream. Before she could regain her voice, as the swing came back, Jiang Yinyan controlled it again. Yun Yin felt as if her heart almost flew out. Jiang Yinyan's voice seemed to soften again, and he chuckled. Scared? It was a double entendre. Don't be afraid, Jiang Yinyan chuckled softly. With me here, you don't need to be scared. The man's unpredictable moods made Yunyan uneasy. She quickly got off the swing, not wanting to be his puppet on a string anymore. She said, since young Master Yin is home now and has eaten, you should get some rest. I won't disturb you. Having said that, she made to leave. But Jiang Yinyan unhurriedly sat on the swing. Did I say you could leave? Yunyan stopped, turned to look at him. Separated by the space, there was light, but it fell into Jiang Yinyan's eyes without illuminating the depths of his pupils, which were dark and oppressive, making one feel suffocated. Come here. Young Master Yin, I have something. You know I like you to be obedient, Jiang Yinyan calmly interrupted her. Didn't you understand it just now? That's why you were so well-behaved. Yunyan's heart sank continuously. I know you're stubborn to the bone, but you also know very well that even if your wings are tough, I have the ability to break them. Including Yuan Zhou. Jiang Yinyan said coldly. Including Yuan Zhou. Yunyan stared at the man sitting on the swing carriage, recalling his earlier words. Yes, he wanted to humiliate her in a place filled with the Yu family's aura. These past 2 days, he had been relatively easy to deal with, and Yunyan had almost forgotten that Jiang Yinyan was not someone one could easily fathom. Trying to guess his thoughts was, in the end, just asking for trouble. She slowly unclenched her tightly clasped fingers. Especially at this moment, she couldn't go against him. Predators had a common flaw. The more the prey struggled, the more excited they became. Yunyan knew her thoughts couldn't be hidden from Jiang Yinyan, but even if he saw through her, what then? As long as her goal was achieved. Yunyan walked towards him. Light clearly enveloped him, yet it still made Yunyan feel a chill. Yes, Beishir would grow colder day by day in the coming days. The most beautiful season was about to pass, and the cold season was approaching. This was also why Yunyan disliked Beishir. If she had to find a reason to like it, the only one she could come up with was being able to wear cashmere coats, thick long scarves, gloves, and roll thick snowballs, or simply lie in soft snow and press out a long human shape. Jiang Yinyan reached out and took hold of her wrist, pulling her forward, and she was drawn into his embrace. He gently held her from behind, seemingly tender, but in reality, preventing her from getting up and leaving. He chuckled in a low voice, asking, Whose handwriting is this? Who were you thinking of back then? Yunyan looked at her youthful handwriting, suppressing the resistance and sorrow in her heart. She softly said, It's not written for anyone. I just thought the sentence was beautiful at the time. Is that so? Jiang Yinyan's chin gently brushed against her hair. Why do I remember you having a secret crush on someone back then? No, Yunyan immediately denied. Why are you nervous? Jiang Yinyan slightly tightened the arm around her waist. Though smiling, his eyes remained somber. He said, It's nothing even if you had a secret crush. It's normal at the age of youthful infatuation. Really, I didn't, Yunyan insisted. Jiang Yinyan's lips pressed against her cheek, and he chuckled softly. Good if you didn't. With him this close, Yunyan didn't even need to turn and look at his face to understand what he wanted. Especially when his slender fingers gently unbuttoned her shirt. The intention became even clearer. Young Master Yin. Yunyan straightened her back, trying to suppress her voice, trembling with anger. Your wound hasn't healed yet. I'm not full, Jiang Yinyan said, turning her body towards him. Space was limited, and she was pinned in his embrace, so she could only be almost touching him. This made it convenient for the man to do as he pleased. Buttons undone, clothes disheveled, sunlight fell on her smooth shoulders. Waves of desire surged in his eyes, slowly engulfing her. Then, I'll go get you more food, Yunyan said, her breath quick, trying to feign ignorance. No need. Jiang Yinyan's voice was low, deep, and sexy, like it had feet, burrowing into one's heart. He leaned forward and gently bit open her shirt button. Eating you is enough. The most direct invitation. Unabashed. Yunyan knew that once he wanted something, she couldn't escape. She pushed lightly against his solid chest and said, Young Master Yin, let's go inside. Right here, Jiang Yinyan said, biting her. His face was buried in her chest. Yunyan shivered, unable to stop a slight tremor throughout her body. This elicited a compliment from the man. Yunyan, this body of yours is so seductive. It makes one can't help but want to. He lightly bit her neck, thick with desire. Fuck you to death. Yunyan tightly pressed her lips together, not wanting her voice to escape. But the man was dissatisfied with her restraint. His slender fingers gently pried open her lips. Don't hold back. I like to hear your voice. Especially here. In an instant, a sense of humiliation grew wildly like weeds in Yunyan's heart. It was the next day before Yunyan emerged from Jiang Yinyan's villa. Although he was injured, he didn't torment her any less. This time, unlike last time, Yunyan clearly felt she had fallen into utter ruin. From the garden to the living room to the bedroom, She was molded into various shapes by Jiang Yinyan, enduring the immense pleasure he brought her again and again. Fortunately, Jiang Yinyan had an internal meeting the next day, which allowed Yunyan to leave. Old Lu arrived at the villa, and Jiang Yinyan ordered him to drive Yunyan home. Old Lu looked at Yunyan with a somewhat meaningful gaze, but quickly returned to normal. Once in the car, Yunyan leaned back in the seat as if falling apart, yet still had to maintain her composure. After all, it wouldn't look good for others to see. But then she thought, was there still a need to care? She had just come out of Jiang Yinyan's villa. Anyone who saw her would understand what had happened. The car drove on, and Yunyan remained silent the whole way. She was drowsy. Her whole body was utterly exhausted. Old Lu glanced in the rearview mirror, then subtly slowed the car, making it drive more smoothly. He said, "Miss you, you can sleep for a while. It's still quite a distance from the villa to your place." Yunyan felt truly exhausted. Old Lu's words were like a hypnotic command. She fell asleep before he even finished speaking. When she opened her eyes again, she found the car had already reached her residential compound. The car was parked by the roadside with the engine off. Old Lu wasn't in the car, but standing outside. He had perfectly judged the distance and etiquette. For a moment, Yunyan thought Old Lu was quite nice. Imagining if she were sound asleep in the back seat and Old Lu remained in the car, just thinking about it was quite awkward. Yunyan got up, tidied her clothes, and adjusted her hair. After confirming that there was no one around the compound, she pushed open the door and got out of the car. Although the compound had the lively, homely atmosphere she liked, it also had the drawback of being gossiped about by neighbors. This was an old compound in the city, inhabited by many locals, a lot of whom were elderly. So, at certain times, many idle people would gather to chat about this person and that. Old Lu was smoking outside. He hadn't finished half a cigarette when he saw Yunyan get out of the car. He immediately stubbed out the cigarette, threw it away, and fanned away the smoke smell from himself. Seeing this, Yunyan didn't think too deeply and said to Old Lu, "I'm sorry, you've worked hard." "You're too kind, miss you," Old Lu said, maintaining a little distance from her, his attitude consistently respectful. Looking at Old Lu like this, Yunyan somehow thought of the former Yen. Respectful, yet exceedingly polite. But the ruthlessness was hidden within this politeness. Old Lu. Yunyan originally intended to leave, but reconsidered and stopped, turning to look at him. "Actually, you know very well what role I play by young Master Yan's side, an unseemly relationship. In the future, you don't need to be so polite." It made her feel it was more of a mockery. Outwardly a Yu family young lady, but inside utterly filthy. Old Lu looked at her, his gaze very calm. As expected of someone who followed Jiang Yinyan, sometimes even their expressions were the same. After a moment, Old Lu said, "Miss you, there might be something you don't know." Yinyan looked at him. "Even Miss Imola has never entered young Master Yan's villa," Old Lu said softly. Yunyan was stunned, thinking she had misheard. Old Lu continued, "I respect Miss Yu. Besides respecting the Yu family's reputation, it's also because you have a privilege Miss Imola doesn't." Privilege? Yunyan had felt something strange after hearing that Miss Imola had never been to the villa, but upon hearing Old Lu say that, she suddenly found it amusing. What? In others' eyes, her ability to enter and exit Jiang Yinyan's villa was a privilege? Did they truly see Jiang Yinyan as a god? What if Miss Imola hadn't been to the villa? She would enter the villa sooner or later and become Jiang Yinyan's wife sooner or later. And her? She was nothing more than a tragic and ridiculous experience. "I don't care for such privileges," she sneered. "So, in your eyes, I'm just a pathetic creature living at the mercy of others, right? Why pretend to be respectful?" As she walked into the compound, Yunyan sadly wondered, wasn't she a pathetic creature? Wasn't she humble? Hadn't she lived at the mercy of others? She mocked herself. What high nobility was she still feigning? Huang Jifa proactively brought business to their door, coming to Yuanzhou with a prepared factory contract. Knowing that Yunyan listened to Yuanzhou, Huang Jifa dared not provoke Yuanzhou regarding Yunyan's affairs. The contract signing followed normal procedures, and he did not proactively invite Yunyan. Yuanzhou was very strict in reviewing contracts. In the former Yu family, such matters were handled by the legal department. Now, Yuanzhou personally managed every project, let alone controlling the contracts. Huang Jifa had put thought into the contract. He was someone who wouldn't take action unless there was an obvious benefit. His proactive presentation of the contract this time was also a trick up his sleeve, betting on Yuanzhou's eagerness to finalize the factory space quickly. Unexpectedly, he was slapped in the face by reality. Yuanzhou didn't even use the legal department, personally scrutinizing the contract. He ended up pointing out every little trick Huang Jifa had hidden in the contract one by one. This made Huang Jifa quite awkward for a moment. Yuanzhou was quite outspoken. "It's fine, Mr. Huang. if you genuinely don't want to cooperate. Even if we don't cooperate, our friendship remains, and who knows, maybe there will be opportunities for cooperation in the future. As the saying goes, fortune turns like a wheel. Who can guarantee that no one will ever need anyone else in the future? Mr. Huang, don't you agree? These words carried a deeper meaning. Huang Jifa, being a shrewd man, how could he not understand? Naturally, he was in the wrong, but he would never admit to his intentions in the contract. So he feigned anger and blamed the company's legal department for their carelessness. They don't use their brains when working. Some data in the contract template must not have been changed. Little brother you, don't worry. All these issues you pointed out today, I'll have the legal department correct them when I get back. This was using minimal effort to achieve maximum effect, with a suspicion of shirking responsibility. He didn't say he would immediately amend the contract on the spot. How could Yuanzhou not see through Huang Jifa's little scheme? He just smiled and said no more. Huang Jifa's intention was simple. First, to go back and forth with the contract, dragging it out for days or even a month, and during this time, he could continue to persuade Yunyan to act as an intermediary. However, Huang Jifa's calculations didn't add up. No matter how much he planned, he never anticipated Mrs. Huang's arrival, and that she would be accompanied by Yunyan. The two entered the company arm in arm. As soon as Huang Jifa saw this, he felt uneasy. He had no idea his wife and Yunyan could be so familiar, let alone the unique jade bracelet on Mrs. Huang's wrist. Huang Jifa found that jade bracelet very familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Then it clicked. Of course, it was familiar. He had seen it. It was in young Master Yan's hospital room. That jade bracelet was inside the brocade box old Liu had picked up. At the time, he had even thought the bracelet must be something young Master Yan was giving to a woman. Now this bracelet was on his wife's wrist, and Yunyan was with her. Mrs. Huang was very surprised to see Huang Jifa at the company. Now this bracelet was on his wife's wrist, and Yunyan was with her. She said she would have hitched a ride with him if she had known he was coming today, saving Miss Yu the trouble of picking her up. The bracelet on your hand? Huang Jifa asked hesitantly. It was clear Mrs. Huang truly liked the bracelet. The light in her eyes shone with joy as she gently caressed it. She said, Miss Yu gave it to me. How is it? Doesn't it look good? Huang Jifa instantly understood, his heart jolted. So, the person in young Master Yan's hospital room that day was Yunyan. Then her relationship with young Master Yan. Huang Jifa's subtle expression might have escaped Mrs. Huang's notice, but Yuanzhou understood it clearly, and Yunyan's eyes were even sharper. Mrs. Huang was still shaking her wrist, gesturing to Huang Jifa. Huang Jifa, recovering from his astonishment, repeatedly said, beautiful, beautiful, and then said to Yunyan, Miss Yu, how could you give my wife such a grand gift? This bangle looks like an antique, worth a fortune. Gold has a price, but jade is priceless. It's rare that Mrs. Huang likes it so much. Even the best items need to meet someone who appreciates them, don't they? Yunyan said this ambiguously. Mrs. Huang gently took Yunyan's hand and said happily, Listen, I just love listening to you talk. Yunyan smiled slightly. Huang Jifa knew very well that jade is priceless, and the more priceless something is, the harder it is to repay the favor. He tried several times to subtly inquire about Yunyan's relationship with Jiang Yunyan, but he hadn't found the right moment to ask such a question, and thus missed the opportunity. Because Mrs. Huang had stated her intention. It's been a long time since I've seen Yuanzhou. I wanted to come and see him today. Am I disturbing you? Yuanzhou was naturally polite to Mrs. Huang. After a few pleasantries, he said, Mr. Huang and I are almost done with our business. It's rare for Mrs. Huang to come to Beishur. It's my fault for not having made time. Tonight, I'll book a restaurant to welcome Mrs. Huang. Mrs. Huang gently waved her hand, indicating that it wasn't necessary, saying she understood they were busy, and then asked how their business talks were going. Huang Jifa clearly didn't want Mrs. Huang involved too much, and said, These are all business matters, you don't need to ask too much. Perhaps Huang Jifa was being arrogant now, or he had forgotten the occasion. Although Mrs. Huang was a full-time housewife now, she came from a prominent wealthy family. Huang Jifa saying this in public was like slapping Mrs. Huang's face. Sure enough, Mrs. Huang's face darkened. She said to Huang Jifa, What commercial secrets could there be? We've had a cooperative relationship for so many years. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. To be honest, it was what Yuanzhou and Yunyan wanted to see. Yuanzhou timely broke the awkwardness, but at the same time, subtly pushed Huang Jifa to the edge of the cliff. Mrs. Huang, it's not really a commercial secret. Mr. Huang was just joking. We're discussing the factory building, and there are some issues with the contract. Mr. Huang means to send it back to legal for revision before signing. Huang Jifa's face grew even darker. Mrs. Huang raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. What's wrong with the contract? Haven't you been working on it for a long time? Yuan-jo smiled. Cooperation, after all, requires both sides to be satisfied. It's all right. Mr. Huang also said that the legal department was careless and didn't intentionally make things difficult for our Yu family. It's just a misunderstanding. This remark was even more pointed. Mrs. Huang immediately understood. She glanced at Huang Jifa, then looked at Yuan-jo and smiled slightly. May I see the contract? Huang Jifa gently pulled Mrs. Huang closer and whispered, What's there to see in the contract? You're at someone else's company. Is it appropriate to do this? Mrs. Huang said, Don't forget, I used to oversee my maiden family's legal affairs, and I personally screened the Huang family's legal team. What can I see? Besides, if you're talking about factory matters, then that concerns me, doesn't it? Huang Jifa's face was awkward. His mouth twitched a few times, unable to say anything. Yunyan remained silent. When she spoke again, she was to the point. Mrs. Huang, Mr. Huang is just being protective of you. I really envy you two, still so loving after half a lifetime together. Mrs. Huang snorted with a laugh. Huang Jifa accepted the olive branch offered by Yunyan and repeatedly said, That's right, that's right. That contract is so tiring to look at. I'm afraid you'll get tired. How much better it would be to go shopping with Miss Yu. Buy some clothes and bags. Mr. Huang, Yunyan said softly. Huang Jifa had the least resistance to a beautiful woman's voice, especially Yunyan's. Her voice was quite sweet at this moment, making him momentarily lost in thought. Mrs. Huang had been his wife for years. How could she not see through his expression? She snorted again. Before coming, she had been hesitant about Yunyan's words, specifically the matter of forcing Yunyan to be a middleman under the guise of cooperation. Now she understood. Huang Jifa definitely had the rogue intention and the nerve to act on it. Look at his lecherous expression now. He could use cooperation to force the other party to be a middleman, and then use cooperation to force the other party to do more unscrupulous things. Yunyan deliberately ignored the undercurrents between the couple and said to Huang Jifa, You have to blame me for this. When I saw Mrs. Huang, I kept remembering old times. As we chatted, I lost my sense of propriety and just blurted things out. Mrs. Huang was also very happy to hear about our two families cooperating and tried her best to help facilitate the cooperation between both sides. After all, Mrs. Huang is a nostalgic person. Mr. Huang saw that Mrs. Huang was looking at him and also didn't want to completely lose face outside. He smiled broadly, said yes several times, and then took out the contract from his briefcase and handed it to Mrs. Huang. He wasn't very willing. Mrs. Huang took it. She was indeed a professional. After just 2 pages, she spotted problems. The further she read, the more displeased Mrs. Huang's expression became. Huang Jifa stood beside her, feeling completely uncomfortable, not knowing whether to leave or stay. After a long while, Mrs. Huang finished reading the contract. She ignored Huang Jifa's ashen face, turned to Yuan-jo, and asked if he had a revised version. Yuan-jo said yes, and then showed Mrs. Huang the electronic version on his computer. After reading it, Mrs. Huang's face darkened further. Huang Jifa raised a hand to rub his nose, looking at a loss. Fortunately, Mrs. Huang still saved Huang Jifa's face on the spot. Old Huang, I think the company's legal team needs to be replaced. They can make such obvious mistakes. It's a good thing Yuan-jo is an old acquaintance of ours. Otherwise, they would definitely think we lack sincerity. Huang Jifa reluctantly agreed. Yes, yes, yes. Mrs. Huang turned the computer around and looked up at Yuan-jo. Yuan, I trust you. Just draw up the contract according to the revised version. From my side, Yuan-jo confirmed. Mrs. Huang nodded. Yes, I've looked through it already. Your revisions are all reasonable, so there won't be any problems following the revised version of this contract. Thank you, Mrs. Huang, Yuan-jo said calmly. Mrs. Huang smiled. What are you being polite for? It's an honor for our Huang family to cooperate with the Yu family again. Huang Jifa, seeing that the tide had turned, could only force a smile and say things like congratulations on our pleasant cooperation. This power struggle subsided with Mrs. Huang's intervention. Afterwards, Yunyan was still quite worried and said to Mrs. Huang, Will Mr. Huang be unhappy? He actually didn't really want to offer the factory building for cooperation with us. Mrs. Huang was forthright. She patted her shoulder and said, Does he dare to have such thoughts? Even if he did, he wouldn't be qualified to do so. A factory, not a complex project at all. Mrs. Huang was willing to use this project to do a favor, while Huang Jifa wanted to use this project to hold them back. The contract falling into Yu Zhuanzhou's hands was equivalent to gaining the initiative. Mrs. Huang was considerate and specifically called legal to instruct that the factory project must proceed quickly, without so many complicated procedures. On the surface, it was a call to legal, but in reality, it was a warning to Huang Jifa that she was personally overseeing this project. The factory matter was settled. Even if Huang Jifa wanted to cause more trouble, he had to consider Mrs. Huang's reputation. After all, it was a project personally approved by Mrs. Huang, so he wouldn't be able to go back on his word in the future. He couldn't find an excuse. Huang Jifa was, after all, an old fox, the type who would definitely try to gain some advantage. He privately discussed with Yunyan, "Look, our cooperation is set, and we're on the same boat, right? What I said before." "Mr. Huang," Yunyan softly interrupted him, "it's true that our two families have a cooperation. You provide the factory, I provide the money. This is a very equal transaction. Neither owes the other. But what you mentioned, I'm afraid I cannot agree to. That's not within the scope of our cooperation." "I know, I understand. This certainly isn't part of the cooperation, but since we're cooperating, it's about giving and taking favors, right?" Huang Jifa said, "That favor is something I can't afford to give," Yunyan said softly. "Or, how about finders keepers, losers weepers, Mr. Huang?" Huang Jifa chuckled. "Miss you as a middleman, I'll definitely give you benefits." Then 3-7, Yunyan swiftly stated the profit split. Huang Jifa was stunned. "Well, what? Mr. Huang gets 3, I get 7. Being a middleman isn't that easy. You and I both know what kind of project that is. With such a huge cake, it might not be easy for Mr. Huang to get a slice," Yunyan said unhurriedly. "As a middleman, I face high risks, so the vested interests should also be higher." Huang Jifa thought for a long time, then leaned closer to Yunyan and tentatively whispered, "Miss you, actually, if you just ask, young Master Yin will give you a share, right?" Yunyan smiled slightly. "The breakup between the Jiang family and me is public knowledge. Does Mr. Huang think young Master Yin will show me any deference?" "But that bangle I saw..." Yunyan looked at him quietly. Huang Jifa's remaining words were swirling in his mouth. He wasn't stupid. Some words, once spoken, could lead to disaster. That's the meaning of words bring misfortune. Yunyan didn't wait for him to continue, and chuckled, "That bangle belonged to the Yu family from the beginning. My mother always thought Mrs. Huang had a good temperament and wanted to give it to her. Now that the opportunity has arrived, giving the bangle to Mrs. Huang can be considered fulfilling my mother's wish." This single sentence defined the situation of the bangle. Huang Jifa understood that he had to keep the matter of seeing the bangle at the hospital to himself. Miss Yu is indeed a member of the Yu family. When it comes to negotiating terms, she's absolutely ruthless, Huang Jifa said with a laugh. Yunyan smiled slightly. "It's also strange. I'm not in business, but some ideas I come up with even surprise myself. Maybe it's genetics?" Huang Jifa could not possibly agree to a 3-7 split. He would have to invest manpower, material resources, and capital, only to end up doing all the work for someone else's benefit. Yunyan said, "Mr. Huang wants to make it big. Small profits that should be given up. To put it bluntly, Mr. Huang wants to hitch a ride on young Master Yan's vehicle this time. So how can you think about making money in the early stages? Isn't establishing solid connections the most important thing?" Huang Jifa looked at Yunyan for a long time after hearing that, then suddenly asked, "You mean the Yu family also wants to participate?" "Our objective is different from Mr. Huang's. The Yu family isn't going after the project." Huang Jifa narrowed his eyes slightly. "Only for money?" "Yes, only for money," Yunyan said straightforwardly. "The Yu family needs money now." Huang Jifa said 50-50. Yunyan smiled. "Mr. Huang, we're not haggling over vegetables in a market. The project is very important to Mr. Huang. Although the Yu family is short on money, they're not relying on this project for a living. The difference is just how quickly the money comes." Huang Jifa pondered for a long time, then asked her, "Any other conditions?" Yunyan looked at him. "We just want to make money. We don't want to leave any trace in this project." Huang Jifa immediately understood. Using a middleman to achieve a conversion of interest was actually something Yunyan thought of on the fly. After finalizing the factory cooperation, Yunyan had the confidence to bring up the project in Jiang Yunyan's hands again. Now, Yunyan and Yu Wanzhou were effectively in control. Yu Wanzhou thought Yunyan was taking a bit of a risk, but at his core, he didn't want to get involved with the Jiang family again at all. Yunyan said, "We'll find an intermediary company to act as a transition then. Besides, it's still uncertain whether I can even succeed as a middleman." Yu Wanzhou considered, "We don't have to earn this money." "No, we need it," Yunyan said. "How can returning to Jiangnan be so simple? Although the factory is settled, the C family is still dragging things out. We need enough funds and a fallback plan so that we won't be flustered." Yu Wanzhou looked at her for a long time, making Yunyan laugh. She asked him what he was looking at. He said, "I'm increasingly thinking that father's decision not to let you go into business might have been a mistake." Yunyan chuckled. "Definitely, it was a mistake." Jiang Yunyan had been quiet these past 2 days and hadn't asked her to go to the villa again. This also made it convenient for Yunyan's activities with Mrs. Huang, further solidifying her relationship with Mrs. Huang. Yunyan admitted that she had the suspicion of using Mrs. Huang, using her to slowly re-enter the circle of socialites. However, her utilization was not insincere. She also told Mrs. Huang that she would do everything she could to help the Yu family return. Even if they couldn't reclaim their former glory, she didn't want the Yu family to fall completely. Mrs. Huang truly took care of Yunyan, introducing her to some resources during her short 2-day stay in Beishur. Of course, in this society of favors and benefits, people give you favors, but whether you can gain benefits depends on your own ability. With Mrs. Huang's current standing in the circle, most people would still show her respect, but when facing Yunyan, everyone's impression still lingered on her being merely a charming socialite. As for doing business, for those who were interested but wary of her background, Yunyan simply let Yu Wanzhou step forward, and they did manage to secure a few projects. The projects weren't big. In the past, the Yu family wouldn't have bothered with such small profits, but Yunyan and Yu Wanzhou didn't care. Their goal was to make the Yu family active in the market. For this, Mrs. Huang admired Yunyan greatly. She gently held her hand and said, "I thought you would back down, with all those men questioning you." Huang Tai admired Yunyan's character greatly and sighed. "Before I got married, I often follow my elders to do business. And I also knew that even if you're born into wealth, there are times when you can't help yourself, like with marriage." Huang Jifa, though not particularly handsome, and his family's influence wasn't truly equal to ours when he came to propose, I saw that he was willing to work hard and was quite clever, so I agreed to the marriage. As she spoke, the two were in a bright and clean cafe, miles away from the hotel where Huang Tai was staying. It was in the most prime location on Beishur's financial street. Besides top-tier luxury hotels, there were high-end shopping malls featuring the world's leading brands. The cafe was street-facing, and luxury cars mostly frequented this street. Mid-Autumn Festival was approaching, and the large screens above the mall were filled with beautiful holiday promotions. Under the dazzling lights was Qin Yuan Hotel, which was also among Beishur's top luxury establishments in its upcoming mid-autumn activities. The Qin Yuan brand itself was top-tier luxury, with one branch in Beishur city center and another in the distant suburbs. It was an entirely local industry and the pinnacle of all hotels in Beishur, especially the suburban one, which was adjacent to Qingshan Buddhist Temple, making its geographical location extremely advantageous. Nestled by mountains and waters, exuding an antique charm, it covered tens of thousands of square meters, with each guest room featuring a private courtyard, and each courtyard having its own independent hot spring. It was said to have cost over 1 billion in total investment. If she didn't have business in the city, Huang Tai would have stayed at the Qin Yuan in the distant suburbs. She longed for the environment there. Coincidentally, the biggest boss behind Qin Yuan was Jiang Yinyan. This fact wasn't publicized, and various events were attended by the hotel chairman, but everyone in the industry knew who the real investor mogul was. Yunyan had heard that the land on Financial Street was the beginning of internal strife within the Jiang family, as Jiang Yantai had also set his sights on it at the time. The Zhang family was also involved, and Zhang Xianwen was a high-profile individual, so the battle for the land was quite grand. In the end, his retreat was equally spectacular, fleeing in disarray. The outside world never publicized the ownership of this land, and ordinary people naturally didn't care, because no matter who acquired it, those who could afford to spend there were either rich or powerful. As outsiders put it in the Financial Street area, even the air cost money. Though Yunyan was close to Jiang Yinyan, she didn't know how many industries he truly owned. She only knew that in the hotel sector alone, besides the Qin Yuan before her, he was involved in several other renowned brands. After introducing Yunyan to her connections, Huang Tai proactively invited Yunyan for coffee today. Yunyan was quite surprised, as she thought someone like Huang Tai would prefer a tea house. Huang Tai ordered the cafe's signature Hawthorne caramel cappuccino, while Yunyan opted for a simple latte. It was clear Huang Tai didn't enjoy it, as she frowned after one sip and remarked, "Why drink coffee if it's this sweet?" She didn't touch the coffee again afterward. Huang Tai ordered the cafe's signature Hawthorne caramel cappuccino, while Yunyan opted for a simple latte. It was clear Huang Tai didn't enjoy it, as she frowned after one sip and remarked, "Why drink coffee if it's this sweet?" She didn't touch the coffee again afterward. Seeing this, Yunyan ordered an espresso Americano for Huang Tai, which Huang Tai found much more palatable. Yunyan had a subtle feeling that Huang Tai's invitation today wasn't simply to catch up. Huang Tai gently set down her coffee cup and said softly, "Now that my husband's career is successful and my children don't worry me, I should be like other wealthy wives, going out to shop, getting facials, or sweating it out at the gym. Mrs. Huang keeps herself in great shape, and you married early, so even with grown children, you're still very young. That lying flat life isn't suitable for you," Yunyan said softly. Huang Tai smiled, but her smile was bitter. "I didn't feel this way before. Back when the Huang family was climbing, I'd help old Huang manage the company when we were short-staffed and life felt promising. Now, old Huang controls everything in the company, and I've become a full-time wife. Many envy me, saying I bet on the right horse, that I'm truly blessed, a rich maiden family, powerful in-laws, and no worries about the children. I'm a definite life winner. But miss you, I'm only in my 40s. If nothing unexpected happens, I've only lived half my life. What about the other half? Am I supposed to live like this forever? Yunyan lowered her eyes, took a sip of coffee, and said softly, actually, many wealthy wives live just like that. After all, few dare to take risks. Even ordinary couples wouldn't easily let their marriage fall apart. Huang Tai looked at Yunyan thoughtfully, and after a long while, asked, you already know the purpose of my invitation today, don't you? Her hotel was in the east of the city, while Financial Street was in the west. In Bayshore, there was a saying, east for wealth, west for power. The east gathered most of the wealthy, and the west gathered most of the powerful. This was the origin of the saying. Yunyan sighed softly, neither nodding nor shaking her head. The latter half of life carries too much risk. Who can guarantee a lifetime of peace and security? Huang Tai cleverly changed the subject. Miss you. It's true that the Yu family faced trouble. Whether as a business partner or a friend, I didn't want the Yu family to run into trouble. But one must look at things comprehensively. If the Yu family hadn't had problems, you would never have experienced the harsh realities of the world. Everyone around you would have seemed like good people, but society isn't truly like that. Now you can grow quickly and strive for what you want. That's actually a good thing. Huang Tai then explained, don't misunderstand. I don't mean to gloat. Understand, Yunyan said softly. Huang Tai was right. When she was the Yu family's cherished and pampered little princess, everyone around her seemed good. Those who interacted with her and served her were all kind-faced and benevolent, and the wives of families with business dealings with the Yu family were equally amiable. But what happened when the Yu family ran into trouble? Only then did she truly experience the coldness of the world. I have my maiden family as a backing, so my life is relatively easy, but ultimately, people have to rely on themselves. What others give you isn't as good as what you have yourself. To have the initiative, you must possess it yourself, Huang Tai sighed. Yunyan asked her, is Mrs. Huang thinking of starting something? Huang Tai smiled faintly, picked up her coffee cup for a sip, then turned to look out the window. After a moment, she said, if life is destined not to give you peace, then continuing to lie flat will only lead to ruin by life. Yunyan noticed a touch of bitterness at the corner of Huang Tai's mouth, and following her gaze, her expression froze slightly. Across the street, a man and a woman entered the Qin Yuan Hotel. The woman was very young and beautiful, sweetly and naively holding the man's arm, even giving him a passionate kiss before entering. Yunyan couldn't see the man's expression clearly, but she was certain he was enjoying it, as his other hand carried several Hermes handbags. Indeed, it was enough to earn the girl's enthusiastic kiss. Yunyan recognized the man, Huang Jifa. Yunyan subconsciously looked at Huang Tai, but saw only calmness in her eyes and instantly understood. Huang Tai didn't retract her gaze until Huang Jifa and the woman had entered the hotel. A cup of Americano. The real bitterness was likely in her heart. I heard she's a film academy student, a senior this year, and a newcomer to the industry, Huang Tai said, bitterness lingering at the corner of her lips. You already knew, didn't you? Yunyan knew. Zhou had found out about it before Huang Tai even came to Bayshore. Huang Jifa was keeping a female college student in Bayshore, and his recent trips to the city were not just for business, but also to accompany her. It was clear Huang Jifa was quite smitten with the student, buying her lavish gifts, whatever was expensive. Yunyan didn't deny it to Huang Tai. She nodded. Huang Tai looked at her. But you didn't tell me. Yunyan honestly replied. Although Bayshore has good scenery this season, Mrs. Huang is sensitive to cold, so she prefers to vacation in warm, humid places. Coming to Bayshore, she must be here for Mr. Huang's affairs. There is no need for me to overspeak in front of you. Huang Tai gazed at her, her eyes, if not smiling, at least showing relief. You and Wanzhou have both courage and strategy in business, just like your father. You could have entirely leveraged Huang Jifa's infidelity to threaten him into cooperation, but you didn't. Not only did you not exploit the loophole, but you also gave away a bracelet. Don't you think the loss outweighs the gain? Yunyan chuckled softly at that. So, Huang Tai had sharp eyes and was definitely not an empty-headed full-time wife. We are aiming for long-term cooperation and don't want to achieve our goals through quick, underhanded tactics, leading to future instability and suspicion, Yunyan said sincerely. If Mrs. Huang knew we used dubious means to achieve cooperation, I don't think you would believe we are sincere partners, would you? Huang Tai nodded. That's true. But nowadays, many people resort to unscrupulous methods to achieve their goals. Yunyan said lightly, They achieve their goals, but what they gain is only immediate profit, which isn't suitable for our Yu family. Although the Yu family has fallen now, our reputation remains, and the Yu family's reputation wasn't built on petty cleverness. As she spoke, her gaze turned back towards the hotel, and she continued, "It's the same for those young girls. There will always be younger third parties and fourth parties, won't there?" Huang Tai scoffed. Yun Yan's gaze returned to Huang Tai's face. "Marriage is sometimes like running a business. It depends on what you want, immediate or long-term benefits. In other words, the initiative is now in Mrs. Huang's hands. How you want to play it depends on your thinking, not Mr. Huang's actions." A smile touched Huang Tai's lips, but it was merely out of politeness. After a pause, she said, "This isn't the first time for Huang Jifa. Before, it was clearly just a fling, and I turned a blind eye. A business marriage is not an ordinary marriage. Once severed, it's a division of interests, which will inevitably cause major disruption. This time," she didn't finish speaking, but Yun Yan understood her meaning. This time Huang Jifa was serious, and Huang Tai would certainly prepare beforehand. Otherwise, if Huang Jifa lost his head and wanted a divorce, Huang Tai would be at a disadvantage. If old Huang and I were just an ordinary couple, I could storm in right now, catch them red-handed, then kick him out and live a wonderful life on my own for the rest of my days. But a special marriage is different. I can't let Huang Jifa empty out everything from my maiden family," Huang Tai said. Saying this, she sneered again, pushing aside the Hawthorne caramel cappuccino she had just ordered. "I heard that young girl especially loves this coffee from this place, but in my eyes, something that isn't presentable is never truly valuable." Yun Yan listened impassively. After Huang Tai finished, she spoke, "Logically, this is Mrs. Huang's family matter. They say family shame should not be aired publicly, yet Mrs. Huang has specifically pulled me into it. Does Mrs. Huang need me to do something?" Since childhood, her mother had told her that some excitement shouldn't be sought, and getting involved in others' affairs came with a price, especially in wealthy circles. The more you knew, the more you might be harmed. Huang Tai was a very clear-sighted person. She wasn't like Xianglin Saw, incessantly complaining about her misfortunes, nor was she someone who revealed too much to someone she didn't know well. To expose her wound so directly, she must have a request. "Miss you are very smart, and you're right. I need your help, and only you can help with this." Huang Tai was straightforward. "To put it plainly, I want to find an ally to face this together." Yun Yan lowered her eyes slightly and asked after a moment, "What are Mrs. Huang's thoughts?" "This marriage has long been tainted, so I don't want it anymore, but not right now. Although I've been preparing, I don't have a firm grasp on the substantial interests yet. Huang Jifa rose to success relying on my maiden family's influence. But in recent years, after the Huang family's smooth sailing, he started guarding against my family and wouldn't let me interfere in company matters." Huang Tai's gaze was calm. "If it really comes to falling apart, I need to get back my share." Yun Yan was clever. "What Mrs. Huang wants, a divorce lawyer can't provide, can they? I want to reclaim the shares I once owned, but this is not easy to execute. Most of the Huang family's board of directors are Huang Jifa's people now," Huang Tai said. Yun Yan found the key point. "Are there any who aren't?" Huang Tai nodded. "There are two shareholders who invested in the earliest years. Due to the entry of new forces, these two older shareholders have been marginalized and are semi-retired. Mrs. Huang wants to acquire their shares." Huang Tai nodded. Yun Yan asked again, "How is the relationship between those two shareholders and Mrs. Huang's maiden family?" "They're neutral," Huang Tai said. "Huang Jifa is petty. He cleared out all shareholders who had ties to my maiden family years ago. Although those two are like clear soup and plain water, belonging to no one, they are equally distrusted by Huang Jifa." Yun Yan understood. After a long pause, she said, "Mrs. Huang, are you overestimating me by asking me to be your ally? Currently, I'm weak and isolated, with no connections and no money. How can I help you? The fact that I came to Miss You means you can help me with this. But to be frank, this matter will offend people. Miss You can consider it carefully before replying to me. Of course, I sincerely hope to receive Miss Yu's help," Huang Tai said sincerely. "But there's a small favor now, something Miss Yu can do easily." Yun Yan had already guessed. "You want to investigate Mr. Huang's situation in this hotel?" "Yes." Huang Tai sincerely admired her intelligence and said softly, "The hotel is Jiang family property. Miss You can surely put in a word or two with young Master Yin, can't you?" Although Yun Yan was mentally prepared, hearing the name, young Master Yin still made her uncomfortable. Throughout their conversation, she had remained calm and composed, but now, a surge of panic rose in her heart. "I exposed my family shame to Miss You because I trust your character. Don't blame me for being direct, but I actually know about your closeness with young Master Yin," Huang Tai said softly. Yun Yan's fingers, holding the cup, trembled uncontrollably. She looked up at Huang Tai. Huang Tai sighed, gesturing to her wrist. This bracelet. Yunyan was astonished. Huang Tai lowered her voice and said, perhaps influenced by your mother, I've always been fixated on bracelets. After the Yu family's troubles, the old mansion and all the Yu family's belongings were confiscated. This bracelet also waited a long time before being put into auction. I actually intended to bid for it, but someone beat me to it. She said word by word. I had an insider inquire, and the person who bought the bracelet was young Master Yin, the crown prince of the capital. Everyone said Miss Mora had her eyes on this bracelet, yet it was bought by young Master Yin not even the next day. This speed was quite impressive. Less than 24 hours passed from the bracelet being released to being bought. At the time, I also thought young Master Yin was giving it to Mora as a token of love, but I didn't expect it to end up in Miss Yu's hands, Huang Tai said. Miss Yu, for someone like young Master Yin, time is always precious. The fact that he noticed this bracelet suggests he's been planning this strategically step by step for a long time. That's why I dared to ask Miss Yu for help. Yunyan gave a wry smile. Mrs. Huang thinks I hold weight in young Master Yan's heart. They were all intelligent people. There was no need for her to pretend that Jiang Yinyan was Jiang Zhe's uncle anymore. Huang Tai's eyes were calm. Regardless of the exact nature of Miss Yu's relationship with young Master Yin, his willingness to concern himself with your affairs shows that he's at least smitten with you now. That's why I'm troubling Miss Yu. It wasn't a tricky matter, but Yunyan genuinely didn't want to contact him unless absolutely necessary. Huang Tai gently held her hand and said, Miss Yu, when I decided to make you my ally, I already knew I would owe you a great favor.